In 1991, the KGB, probably the most feared intelligence agency on the planet, just vanished. It seemed to happen overnight. But did it really die? Or did it just, change its name? We're going to dive into the incredible story of how the shield and sword of the Soviet Union shattered into 1,000 pieces.
Okay, so let's set the scene. It's August 22nd, 1991. We're in Lubyanka Square, right in the heart of Moscow, staring at the infamous headquarters of the KGB. The air is absolutely electric. You can feel it. The Soviet Union is taking its last breaths, and this massive crowd, well, they've found a target for 74 years of pent-up anger.
You have to understand, this was way more than just pulling down some piece of metal. This was a public exorcism. Tearing down Iron Felix, the guy who founded the original secret police, it symbolized the death of an entire empire that was built on fear.
And that's the real question, isn't it? I mean, does pulling down a statue really mean the institution itself is gone? Or was this all just a cosmetic change, slapping a new coat of paint on a very old, very powerful idea? To figure that out, we actually have to rewind the clock just a few days.
So the fuse for all this was actually lit by the KGB itself. Yeah. In a totally desperate move to stop the Soviet Union from dissolving, the agency's own leadership launched a coup. It was this massive gamble to turn back time. But, as we'll see, it turned out to be a fatal miscalculation. The main guy behind this whole thing was the KGB chairman, Vladimir Khrushchev. Now, he wasn't just some simple hardliner. You got to get inside his head for a second. His own intelligence analysts were telling him the country was on the verge of total collapse. So from his point of view, he was trying to save the state, not just grab power. His plan? Isolate President Gorbachev and get ready to bring back order by force. And here is where that plan just completely, utterly fell apart. Yeah, they managed to isolate Gorbachev, but it didn't really matter. They completely failed to arrest Boris Yeltsin, who then, famously, climbs up onto a tank and becomes the face of the resistance. But the absolute killer, the crucial failure, was that last one. When it was time for that final violent push, the people themselves stood in the way. This was the exact moment the system broke. The KGB's most elite special forces, the legendary Alpha Group, got their orders, stormed the Russian parliament building. And they said no. They refused. They would not fire on their own citizens. The sword was blunt, the shield was broken. The coup just collapsed in total humiliation. So, the epic failure of that coup brings us right back to that angry crowd in Lubyanka Square. With all the hardliners arrested and the security state in chaos, the people seized their moment. They were going to tear down the ultimate symbol of its power. To really get why this statue mattered so much, you have to know who Iron Felix was. He created the Cheka. That was the first in a long, unbroken line of secret police that ended with the KGB. He was their spiritual founder, their patriarch. So that statue wasn't just some decoration. It was a powerful statement that the agency was permanent, untouchable. I mean, can you just imagine that scene? Inside the most feared building in the entire country, the guys who ran the system are just watching as its very foundation is torn down for the whole world to see. For them, this was way more than a political defeat. It was a deep psychological shock. Their whole world, their very purpose, was being declared illegitimate live on television. All right, so the coup plotters are in jail, their statue is in pieces. The KGB is officially dead. The new leaders started taking it apart. But this is where this story gets really complicated. Did they actually destroy it, or did they just break it up for spare parts? This table really shows you the key detail. See, the KGB wasn't abolished, it was fragmented. Foreign intelligence became the SVR. Domestic security became the FSB. The border guards got split off, only to get sucked back in later. The core functions, the buildings, and, this is the most important part, the people, they mostly all stayed. Now, you'd think the hero who stood on the tank, Boris Yeltsin, would want to get rid of the tools of repression for good, right? But what happened next revealed this deep-seated instinct in Russian governance. It's kind of like an authoritarian default setting. Get this. Just a few weeks after the KGB was officially dissolved, Boris Yeltsin tries to create a brand new super ministry. He wanted to combine the new domestic security agency with the regular police force. It was a shocking move, and it sent a real chill through the new Russia. Why was everyone so freaked out?
because they all remember the last time security and police were merged into one. It was called the NKVD, Stalin's personal instrument of mass terror. This was the agency of the Great Purge, of the gulags. And here was Yeltsin, the great Democrat, basically proposing to bring back the ghost of Stalin's most terrifying creation. For one brief, shining moment, a new democratic institution actually held the line. The Constitutional Court struck down the decree, a really rare check on executive power. But this was just a temporary fix. That desire, that impulse for a powerful, centralized security state, it had survived the fall of communism, and believe me, it was not going away. And that brings us to the final, and maybe the most important piece of this whole puzzle. What on earth happened to the hundreds of thousands of trained, disciplined, and now suddenly unemployed KGB officers? The institution might have been gone on paper, but the people, they were still very much around. Well, this chart tells the story. A lot of them just stayed on, joining the new FSB and SVR. Simple. But thousands of others fanned out across the new, chaotic Russia. So, in effect, the collapse of the KGB didn't actually destroy the security state. It privatized it. All those skills in surveillance, in logistics, in coercion, they were suddenly for sale. They moved into private security, big business, organized crime, and of course, politics.
And this created a whole new ruling class, the Siloviki. It literally means people of force. And this powerful network of former security and military men used their old connections and their expertise to grab immense power and wealth, effectively capturing the new Russian state from the inside out. And there is no better case study for this than Vladimir Putin. He was a KGB lieutenant colonel who resigned during the coup, and he just seamlessly transitioned into politics. By 1998, he's back in the same building, running the FSB. A year later, he's running the country. The Chekist, the secret policeman, was back in charge. Which brings us right back to where we started. That big bronze statue of Felix Dzerzhinsky was torn down in 1991 in a huge moment of symbolic liberation. But looking at everything that's happened since, you really have to ask yourself, the idol was gone, for sure, but did the ideology, the methods, and the spirit of the secret police ever really leave the building?